How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name's Josh Hutchinson, and Binksy's back, baby.
That's right.
How was your Thanksgiving, bud?
Oh, it's great, man. I hosted for like 15 people. My wife's family, my parents, my oldest friend came. We absolutely crushed it. There was no counter space. Everybody ate like kings. And at the end of it, instead of like pigging out on leftovers, I was able to donate like 20 meals because I lived in downtown Dallas, and I just took out like 20 meals to the people that were out on the street. So I'm
Oh,
like,
wow, that's
my
awesome, man.
emotional cup is like super full. So
That's really awesome. That's so
yeah.
cool. I'm glad to hear that. That's very, very cool. Um, so were you pretty cranked? Did you drink a lot of Thanksgiving wine?
Oh no. I my mom was kind of upset about that actually. She brought like 7 bottles of wine. They came in town and she was like, are we gonna like tie one on? And I was like, oh, I gotta work like 12 hours tomorrow. I've been kicking since like 8 a.m. Like I'm exhausted. Like I really, for the first time in my life, I like really subtly put on pajamas and just kind of was like, well, like so not quite. I wish, but we didn't do it this time around. We'll get to it, I'm sure.
You got a brewski there though tonight. What are you drinking?
Oh, man, so you're talking to a craft beer enthusiast. I've sold craft beer for a long time.
I am as well.
There's a brewery here in Dallas. It's called Peticolas. It's owned by a former lawyer. His name's Michael Peticolas. Dude makes phenomenal beer. But I've always told people when selling this beer, like in business, like in my job, this beer is called Sit Down or I'll Sit You Down. It's a 10% Imperial IPA. It is the most appropriately named beer of all time. Like,
yeah, no
you
kidding.
better be sitting or this beer will sit you down.
10%, baby.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's great. I love it. So before I get into the housekeeping, I want to just show off my shirt here. So for the video people, check out the YouTube channel. I've got a nice Boreal Salming shirt here. So this shirt came in the mail today. It's actually made by a guy. He's on Twitter. He's Flo Jurgensen, or at Joey Ferg. I believe his name is actually Joe Ferguson. But he has.
Sense. I was like, how do you spell that?
He has a Redbubble website where he creates art, and it's usually Toronto Maple Leafs themed, and sells T-shirts and sweaters and various articles of clothing with his art on it. And in this case, he designed a Boreal Salming themed shirt, and all profits for the shirt goes to ALS Canada, which I mean, their Twitter bio says, we work with the ALS community to improve the lives of people affected by ALS through support, advocacy, and investment in research for a future without ALS. So I just thought I'd give it a quick plug. He didn't ask me to do this. I got the shirt. It's really nice. I've supported him in the past because I really like his art, and I thought it was for a good cause, and just with Boreal being as special as he is to the hockey community and to Nate from Apples and Genos and to the Apples and Genos family in general, I just thought I'd give it a quick plug. So there is a link in the description that goes directly to that to this shirt. You can buy it right then and there. So so there you have it. So let's get into some housekeeping here. Thanks again for leaving us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you haven't and you're enjoying our content, please just take a second and leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, check out the Apples and Genos Discord server. It's a great place to talk fantasy hockey, get your questions answered, and also receive alerts when new Apples and Genos content drops. And actually, I just thought of this now. Today, as you probably have seen on Twitter and social media, Spotify sent out its year in review, or Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah.
Although that little compilation for everybody. So this is the first time that I've seen the Apples and Genos, like from a podcaster side of things.
Okay.
Our Spotify Wrapped, and it was really cool to see. We have listeners from 14 countries and in 2022. There's a number of people that have us in their top 5 most listened to podcasts of the year. So I thought if we are in your Spotify Wrapped. If we're in your top 5, hit us up on Twitter. Hit up Apples and Genos. Hit up me or Binksy on Twitter. Hit us up in the Discord, and just send us a picture. Send us a link. We like to see that. So,
That's so cool.
yeah, hit
My
us up, because I know there's a
my
lot of you out
most
there.
listen is 5-hole. So I
Yeah,
probably
there
should
you go.
listen to us more, but I can only listen to my own voice for so long.
Yeah,
So
that's fair. That's super fair. All right. So if you didn't already know, this is Midweek Moves. It's Wednesday of week 8. And we're talking about schedule maximization for the rest of the week, who you should be adding, dropping, selling high, or buying low. So in terms of the schedule, there are 2 teams that have 3 games left for the rest of the week. That is Anaheim and Minnesota. And they both have the Thursday, Saturday, Sunday schedule. So that's only one off night. But there are also 3 teams that have that Friday, Sunday off night special. And that's Winnipeg, Columbus, and the New York Islanders. So these are all pretty good options for streaming going into the weekend. Next week's schedule, the heaviest night is actually Friday with 10 games. So there's actually a ton of streaming options. So the games are actually distributed pretty well across all 7 days, which is pretty unusual. So you're going to probably have a lot of streaming options. There's not going to be any like super must make moves. So that's actually, I mean, that's in a way that's nice, but so you might not be having to set your Monday morning alarms and all that like some of us crazy people do.
I gotta get better at that. I really do. I wake up at like 7:30 Central, and I'm like, damn it.
They're all gone. Especially in the cacuffle. It's like
Mhm.
there's so many people in Europe that are in these leagues, and they're just like, I mean, they don't have to set their alarm. That's just when they're already awake. So
Yeah, they don't get to
um,
watch the games.
yeah,
Plus and
that's a
minus, you
good
know.
point. That's a good point. So out of the previous teams mentioned for next week's schedule, Columbus and Winnipeg have the best schedule. So they both have 4 games with 2 off nights each. So that might be, I mean, you might be a little more inclined to pick someone up from there so that it can carry into next week. So also, Anaheim, Carolina, Nashville, Chicago, New Jersey, and San Jose all have only 2 games next week. Nashville actually finishes their week this week on Friday, and then they don't play again till next Thursday. So if you're trying to figure out drops and there's someone that's kind of on the bubble for you from Nashville, probably a good team to be dropping from. So do you have anything to add here, Binksy?
Yeah. So just reviewing the schedule upcoming for the next week. 11 teams next week playing on all 3 off nights, and 10 of them have 4 games total. So like you alluded to, it's going to be kind of a streamer's paradise next week. Like, it is the absolute opposite of the last time I was on the show, where I'm like, you should be looking at long-term options. This next coming week, there's going to be a really ideal streamer schedule. So we'll get to that more in our ads, but it's going to be a little bit easier for you to be comfortable and happy with who you added in your streaming options versus
Totally.
a second line defenseman who you just kind of feel good about in the matchup, you know?
Absolutely. All right, let's get into those ads. So my ad for this week is Cole Perfetti, my boy. I got money on this guy for the Calder. He has, I mean, he's run a bit hot the last 3 games. He has 5 points in 3 games, playing on line 1 now with Wheeler and Scheifele. He's on power play 2, which is a little ugly in Winnipeg just because they're so top heavy. But the 5-on-5 situation is good regardless. He's still kind of looking for consistency in terms of offensive generation, as a lot of rookies do. But the points have been coming lately. He is in sole possession now of 2nd in the rookie scoring race behind the red hot Matty Beniers. Winnipeg has a very ideal schedule over the next week and a half. Like I mentioned before, they're probably the most ideal other than Columbus.
I mean, dumpster fire. So
yeah, exactly. There's not a ton of great options there. So Perfetti's the best streamer level player on Winnipeg. He's only 12% rostered in Yahoo, so available in a lot of leagues. Blake Wheeler actually is also only 45% rostered, which was surprising to me, and he has 20 points in 21 games. So he's another guy you might want to look at from Winnipeg. But I like Cole Perfetti. he's a lot more available. So it's very likely that you'll be able to pick him up for the end of this week and into next week.
I
What do
dig
you
it.
think?
I
Yeah,
dig
you
it.
like that?
My confidence wavered in Perfetti over the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a bit like reinvigorated over the recent stretch. Like he seems a little bit more confident on the ice. Like I was kind of wavering just in like a narrative kind of sense, right? Like
Yeah.
I felt like he's kind of hit a plateau, and he seems to have moved past that. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that Wheeler makes me feel better in the streaming sense. But if you're working towards a stream and hold in your roster, then Perfetti is the, let's just say, sexier option for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard for rookies to kind of find that consistency, like I mentioned before. That's why I feel uncomfortable using draft capital and even holding, uh, like even holding for a long time, rookies,
Yeah.
uh, just because they're kind of unpredictable, just because they're trying to find their footing and find the consistency there. So, but yeah, I do like Perfetti right now. He seems to be feeling good. He's got good deployment. So yeah, I feel very comfortable with a Perfetti stream. He's also try eligible, so that's really nice in both Fantrax and Yahoo. So center, left wing, right wing. So that's pretty nice. He's pretty easy to fit into
Does
your
move
lineup.
the needle a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Being able to
definitely.
put him in anywhere is very important.
Yeah.
My ad for this week is the innumerable TJ Oshie, 44% rostered, only eligible at right wing, but an important position. I feel like he's a must add in advance of next week. You're going to have a lot of options next week, but I don't know that there are going to be anyone that is necessarily better at a streaming level than Oshie. 4 games for Washington next week, 3 off nights. He's hitting quite a bit more than his career average. So if you've got a banger eligible league, it's really important. He's playing alongside Kuznetsov and Milano, who is playing a bit better than I think we all expect, except for the boys at 5-hole. He's on line 2, but he's riding on PP1. His IPP is spiking in limited minutes in the 4 games back since the return from injury. I expect him to round into productive form and be a really valuable ad for next week. He is also sprinkling in category stats like PIMs, face-off wins, etc. The minutes over the last 4 games since returning are a bit low, but I think we all expected that with him coming off, an extensive leave. The number of shifts, on the other hand, has been very normal, right? So they're leaving him on the ice in smaller spurts, but his actual shifts are very regular. I see very positive regression signs. He is playing very well, and we can all expect from Oshie like really good numbers while he's healthy. And from what we know, he is healthy right now. So that's a definite add for me. And I feel like if you wait until Sunday, you're going to be too late. If you wait until Monday, you're going to be way too late.
Yeah, Oshie is typically pretty productive when he's healthy. The problem is he's never healthy.
That's true.
He just last year I streamed him a number of times, and I feel like he would play 2 games and then he'd be out, and I'd have to drop him again.
Well, we're up to 4 right now. So
he's a tough one. Yeah, that's pretty good for him. Yeah, he's a tough one to read. I'm usually a little bit gun shy with Oshie, but yeah, he is a productive guy. He'll help that Washington top 6 that's been pretty pretty inconsistent this year, just because of injury. But yeah, I definitely support that. I do like the peripherals. I like that they're getting better this year. His shot rates aren't super awesome, but he's not really a shoot first guy anyways. So yeah, but
they are in line with career averages, though. It's not anything crazy.
Yeah.
Even in the 12 games that he got in before being hurt. So
Yeah.
things are pretty normal. And when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I absolutely believe in people being fueled by spite juice, and he is out there mashing people. So
He sure is.
I'm in. I like it.
Yeah, drinking that anger juice.
That's right.
So my drop. So this is just honestly, this just surprised me. Okay, I'm looking at percent
I was
rostership in
wondering
Yahoo.
why we're touching on this again, but
I know we touched.
I'm just so glad to be rid of him. That
The fact is that we touched on this guy a few weeks ago, and he's still 52% rostered, and he's
doesn't make
injured.
sense.
It's
Yeah, I
John.
would much rather have like Shattenkirk, or it's like
Yeah,
it's stupid.
so it's John Klingberg. He's 52% rostered in Yahoo. I don't know how more than half of leagues still have this guy rostered, especially he's injured right now, first of
And
all.
they haven't had prime like scheduling. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and also so bad they have a bad schedule next week, so obviously but he's injured currently day to day. Cam Fowler's been playing on the power play. He has 11 points in his last 8 games. So he's getting outplayed offensively by Cam Fowler, who I don't know how he has 11 points in 8 games, to be honest, with this
Makes me feel
Anaheim
good to
team.
laugh at him.
But yeah, man, like this John Klingberg thing is not working out in Anaheim. It's been bad. Like just a gigantic waste of money. He's betting on himself and not living up to it. I don't know who's gonna want this guy at the deadline. I don't know, maybe somebody, maybe someone that needs the power play.
I'd trade Suter for him. Suter can't play defense either, so I'd trade Suter for him. He can come back.
Yeah, I guess at least he can play offense a little bit. But even sometimes. He's only got 8 points. He's like half a point a game, so or not even. So anyways, I just wanted to tell you to fire Klingberg into the sun, because apparently that message hasn't gotten across to people in Yahoo leagues yet.
I've already wiped his memory from
wiped it from your memory. Yeah,
I don't even know who you're talking about anymore.
Who are you dropping, man?
So, as I'm sure we're all aware, there's a ton of flux right now across the league. There's lots of over rostered players I would advocate for dropping. And they're guys that we've recently discussed, right? Not a lot has changed in the last 10 days or so. So I'm going to be a bit more specific in my drop this week. I have personally done this. I can attest to doing this, and I might regret it in this format. But I'm going on record and saying that you should, yes, even in a bangers league, be dropping Tanner Jeannot. Yes, I know he finally got an assist after a 13-game pointless streak. Side note, I really love the phrase pointless streak. It has double entendre that makes me very happy. Yes, I know he's still a Big Bang theorist and an occasional big block fanatic, but the schedule, as you noted, for Nashville coming up is very poor, and there's no reason to roster a peripheral guy who isn't playing and doesn't offer enough offensive upside to hold. He's currently 38% rostered on Yahoo. I would expect probably 20% of that is Banger League bolstered, but I expect that number to dip significantly soon. I bit the bullet. I'm advocating you do the same. And honestly, a straight switch for Oshie, it's a pretty good move. Like he's banging. He is getting the minutes. He is getting power play time. Make that move while you can.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that we talked about last year with Tanner Jeannot is he had really high shooting percentage. He has for his career, really. His first 2 seasons in the NHL, he's been like up around 20% shooting, but has terrible deployment. He plays on the 3rd line, 4th line, never is in the top 6, doesn't get power play time, just hits people. So like this is a guy, I don't know, like it seemed completely unsustainable last year. We knew there was negative regression coming for this team in Nashville. Obviously he's down to 7% shooting. So he's probably going to see a little bit of positive regression. But I mean, at this point with Jeannot, the way that he's producing, I mean, he's not really any different than like a Ryan Reeves or like a guy that you pick up, a guy that you stream in for like a Sunday if you need hits in a Bangers Cats league or something like that. So you can get you 5 hits. So I mean, I fully support the Tanner Jeannot drop. It
feels crazy weird. I was literally applauded in the chat when I drafted him in that Bangers Cats league, and all year long I've been like, this is not a player that I can drop, but it has to be done. Like it's just not panning. It's not panning.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of luck with Tanner Jeannot last year, and I don't know that it was talked about a lot.
I watched a lot of Nashville last year, and I just felt like there was another echelon for him to move to offensively.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I didn't
I'm
watch
just
him a
not
ton.
seeing. I did. I watched a lot of
Yeah.
him in the Central Division last year, and like I felt like there were flashes of real excellence for him offensively that would really fantasy wise give you a phenomenal player, and it just isn't coming to fruition this year. And that's the regression we're all talking about. But I mean, hits and shots are individual. Like I
Yeah.
expected him to kind of come alive as the rest of the team regressed, and it just isn't happening.
No, definitely not. No. And maybe I mean, yeah, like I said, I haven't watched him a ton. I'm really just going by numbers, but I mean, you could be right. Like I trust your eye test. I feel like maybe if he got better deployment, maybe if he played with better players, because there really is a drop off in skill level in
Oh
the
yeah,
bottom six for
yeah.
Nashville.
Colton Sisson isn't doing
It's
it.
just not going to cut it, right? So yeah, it could be that there's another gear for him in the right situation, but right now, he's very much just a streamer level guy in a Bangers Cats league. So
Who are you
um,
selling high on?
I'm selling
Speaking
high on
of quality streaks,
I'm selling high on number one rookie Matty Beniers, hottest guy in the NHL right now. He's got 11 points in his last 5 games. Seattle has been converting at just a stupidly, ridiculously high
how many
rate.
points did he get in that just barn burner last night?
Last night he had 2 goals, so 2
Okay,
points. But
all
they
right.
again, like they've that lineup is so interesting. They roll lines and they kind of score by committee. I mean, there's a number of guys that are close to a point per game, like Burakovsky and Jordan Eberle is right up there,
Yeah,
as well as Beniers. But yeah, I mean, his underlying stats. Okay, so right now, yeah, Seattle's been converting at this ridiculously high rate. Beniers over those 5 games, 30% shooting percentage, super high. Now looking at his underlying stats through those 5 games, he is 143rd in the league in individual scoring chances for per 60, and 273rd in individual. Oh, sorry. He's 143rd in the league in individual Corsi 4 per 60 and 273rd in the league in individual scoring chances 4 per 60. His ice time is not trending upward. Like I said, Seattle rolls lines fairly evenly. Now, his on ice shooting percentage game log over the last 5 games. Here we go. You ready for this? So 18%, 40%, 10%, 25%, and 45% last night. That's just that's insane. That's crazy, crazy high. Everything is going in for Seattle right now. Everything's going in for everyone there, especially when Beniers
it's
is on
going
the
in
ice.
so often that OBJ is scoring.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. He had a goal last night. He's had 2 since we talked about him, eh?
I know.
Yeah. It's
That's how
crazy.
well it's going.
Yeah. It's wild. He's got up to three goals now. So anyways, with Matty Beniers, people are going to be buying in on this hype, just because I don't know, people get excited about a hot rookie, right?
It's true.
So people are going to be buying this hype, so try and cash in on it. Anyways, that's all I have to say about Beniers.
Yeah, I think a side note, I'm way more excited about Burakovsky today than I was 2 weeks ago. OBJ, the level is the same. Like I'm gonna have to see more of a track record, but I like Beniers. I think just like you, it's a sell high, and if you're riding it, then great. But if you can move it for something more solidified, I'm definitely more excited about that. My sell high, I'm not as excited about selling, but I still feel like it's a pretty prudent move. My sell high for this week is Matt Boldy, and you guys know I love to bang the drum for Matt Boldy. I'm a huge fan of the player himself, but Minnesota is really, really wishy-washy right now. I'm not confident in them game to game, and I'm definitely not confident in them like going forward in the season. He's rostered at 77%. He is dual eligible. He's got 5 points in the last 3 games after 1 assist in an 8-game stretch. And that's been a pattern across the season, right? He'll put up like 4 or 5 points in a 3-game stretch, and then he goes cold. And then he does it again, and then he goes cold. So his average minutes are down nearly 2 minutes from early season work. and his scoring nights have been on ridiculous shooting averages, right? So it's giving him this, like, across the 21 games for them across the season, it's giving him like an even keeled mark, but the chart is actually doing this, right? It's banging up and down. He's been a very streaky player thus far, and I worry that he will go cold when you need him the most. Of note, Marco Rossi was sent down to AHL Iowa on Monday after 1 assist in 16 games. So that experiment has not gone well. The hope that we had for a dynamic young duo on the second line is out. Is that a positive, you think?
For Rossi?
For Boldy?
For Boldy. This Minnesota team, I'm looking at their daily faceoff right now. Boldy is playing 5-on-5 right now with Freddie Gaudreau and Jordan Greenway, who I believe was a healthy scratch at times this year.
Yuck.
That's not like that. That is a good representation of how little depth this team has up front. It's crazy. Sam Steele is their number one center right now with Ryan Hartman out. It's just disgusting. I don't know. Somehow they keep scoring. Their power play is actually pretty good. And Matt Boldy is on it, but I feel like he relies quite a bit on
I mean, these points that he's getting, they're definitely on the power play.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's a positive for him, fantasy wise. What definitely is a positive is that 2 weeks from now, the Wild will play 4 games all on off nights. So maybe you can use that and the recent scoring streak as bullet points when you go to make offers. And if you can't, it's a reason to hold for later. But I feel like you want to get off of Boldy right now, while there's some recency bias and some reason for someone to buy into it in the future, even in the short term, before things kind of go south. Like, things are not going super well in Minnesota. People are talking about Robo being a better option in the top 10 next year than KK. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in Minnesota, and I'm trying to get out from under it on my rosters before it gets like bad.
Really bad. Yeah, it's a weird one for sure. So let's talk about some buy lows. So I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be doing buy lows here. It's getting a little bit harder to just as the season goes on and you have like a larger sample size and people start getting hot and cold, and averages start evening out. It's a little bit harder to find buy low. We may change the format here.
We've hit our zenith of buy low, I think. But it's important to talk about, though. Like, these are players that you believe that you want.
Definitely still possible to buy low, like on slumping players, but I think we're gonna maybe pivot in the way that we format the show. There's your beer. I love
That's
it.
Right.
Take a look on the YouTube
branding.
Channel. Yeah, that's very
Great
good.
Branding.
Free advertising for this guy here.
I like that guy. I'd advertise for him.
Okay, perfect. So my buy low this week is Austin Matthews. Really, this is just an excuse to talk about Austin Matthews. So a lot of talk about Matthews and how he's been such a big disappointment this year. And, he's not top of the league in points, but he's certainly not far off. And very quietly. And in fact, no one is noticing. So Austin Matthews, is he injured? That's what a lot of people have been saying. He's
hitting a lot for someone that's injured.
Is he grumpy that he's not playing with Mitch Marner right now? Is he throwing a tantrum? I've heard that narrative out there. Austin Matthews, let's look at the numbers here. Matthews, 4th in the league in shots. He's on pace for 352 shots on goal this year. Last year, in his 60-goal season, he had 348. So he's on pace for more. That's over an 82-game stretch. He only played 72 games, I believe, last year, 72, 73, something like that. So obviously his shot rates are down a tiny bit, but not much. Not like, it's pretty negligible. He's 14th in the league in shots per 60 with 12.7, and that is the second best rate of his career. Last year was the best. He is 9th in individual Corsi 4 per 60 with 23.55, very similar to last year. 4th in the league in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, which at 15.91, which is super elite. Obviously, he's 4th in the league. Also very similar to last year. The difference is his shooting percentage is 10.68. And his lowest in his career is 14.34. So that is 4% lower than his lowest career shooting percentage. So truthfully, in my opinion, okay, also his IPP is 61.9%. It's typically above 70. Austin Matthews is unlucky. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. He's getting incredibly unlucky. Would anyone be surprised if the next 2 games, Matthews scores a hat trick in one and then 2 in the next game, and then he's right up in the top 5 in goal scoring again? Would anyone be surprised about that? Because he's creeping up there. He scored again tonight. He's got 12 goals, I believe, on the season now. Obviously, this isn't like...
Has Marner gotten a point tonight yet?
I believe he scored a goal. They won. I'll take a look. I'll let you know. But anyways, Austin Matthews is... Marner got an empty netter.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
There you go. So yeah, Austin Matthews, man, this guy's for real. People are so down on him for not being this number 2 fantasy player. He is the number 2 fantasy player. Yeah, absolutely. Undisputed. People are talking about Leon Draisaitl should have taken him over Matthews. Absolutely not, buddy. Also, Matthews is on pace for 144 hits this year. His previous career high is 67.
We talked about it.
That's insane.
Spike juice.
That's more than double his career high. He is expanding his game, and the goal scoring is going to catch up. He's probably not going to score 60 this year, but would anyone be surprised by that? He's done this every single year of his career. He goes through stretches where he scores 5, 6, 7 goals in 3 games. So and that literally, he could do that next week and he'd be right up there with J-Rob right at the top. So that, to me, it's just, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it has happened many times for Matthews. And I just think that, why do we have these low expectations of this guy? Why are we so down on him? He's one of the best players in the league, arguably the best player other than Connor McDavid. And I just think that if you can acquire this guy at anything below what you would trade for the best fantasy player in the entire league, fucking go for it. That's right? What I'm saying.
I mean, to have him in the conversation for top 3, top 4, and for people to be like, what is wrong with him, is a buy low opportunity. Mm-hmm. You know, you find the right manager who's disappointed, who is not looking at underlying numbers, who's not watching him play fueled by spike juice, who is not seeing him, in my estimation, kind of grow as a 2-way player. That's good news. I'm in on it. And
he's got you all right where he wants you.
You love to see it. You love to see it.
You love to see it. I love to see it.
All right. So speaking of Robo, stay with me here. I am also of the same ilk in that my buy low is a buy not as high as you might possibly think, right? Gotcha. My buy low is Jason Robertson. We're talking about hometown guys right now. That was a total accident. We didn't mean to do that. Obviously,
fun.
Yeah. Oh, it is super fun. It's really fun watching him score. Obviously, Robo is setting the world on fire and doing it with just the most deadpan face of all time. I love that about him. Everyone knows he's been electric. It's been all across all of the hockey headlines. But after watching him intently over the last 10 games, I'm convinced he could go even higher. Our Mark Barber?
Yeah.
Barber.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I have never asked him, but
Let us know, Mark. AKA at 18 Skaters feels slightly differently. In his most recent article that came out, he notes that he believes he's due for a negative regression based on expected goal for, but with a caveat. I'm quoting Mark here, and he says Jason Robertson has everyone's attention right now as he scored the most goals in the NHL. The bad news, his predicted goals were less than his actual goals. Now that you're angry at the model, here's the good news. Robertson has the most predicted goals in the NHL over the last 20 games, putting him on pace
Wow.
for 57 goals in 82 games. Hold on to him unless you can get an absolute haul. I doubt that you can acquire him for a reasonable price at this moment, end quote. In my local leagues, I've got no shot as the people rostering him literally own his jersey. In others, I'm trying to pry him away. Who knows how much success we're going to have. Um, there's something to be said about having a stake in a player that gets your heart jumping like he does mine. Like that comeback where they scored 4 or 5 goals in the third period, like they actually set a record for being down so many goals in the third period and coming back to win, and he was a huge part of that.
Yeah.
um, as Nate noted in the Apples and Geno's Discord today, fantasy hockey is supposed to be fun. And that was in reference to a trade and about levels in the trade and what you should be going for. If there is a player that you're really excited about, you should go after them. There is nothing more fun than swinging a deal for your hometown team's most exciting player. I don't worry as much about his expected goal for stats. They were above 1 last year as well. To see that above 1.6 this year doesn't scare me as much considering how well Dallas has played in the offensive zone. Like their shooting percentage is quite a bit higher than you would expect from the Dallas Stars. But I see room to grow for Robo in average time on ice, and it has been growing recently. He's leading Dallas forwards, but hasn't broken average 18 minutes average time on ice. When he goes over 20 in the season, he gets at least 2 points, right? So if there is room to grow there, and there is, I don't know how much DeBoer is going to do that, right? He's very even keel across the lines.
Yeah.
He's like very keeping things in line, 1, 2, 3 on the lines, but they rely on him in big moments, and he is getting much smarter with the puck. I was listening to Razor Ray on an NHL.com interview earlier tonight that centered mostly on the coined, and I got to give this to Razor. He made sure to tell people this. He coined it the Benaissance.
I like it.
And they were asking about the Stars, and they asked about Robo in particular. And he said in the offseason, the Stars asked him to work on the amount of shots of his that were being blocked, right?
Okay.
He was getting good opportunities in the offensive zone, getting the shots blocked. He's dropped that number per 60 this year thus far by 70%.
Wow. Amazing.
So the eye test bears that out. His wrister is exceptionally quick, and he's using it from sharp angles near the net. The changes are working. I'm fully behind investing in this 20-game stretch. I truly see him as a top 7 forward through the rest of the season if he is healthy.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think he is a top 10 fantasy player now. Like that's what he is. Obviously he's shooting at a crazy rate right now, but like you said, the expected goals are super high. Like Mark said, the expected goals are super high. So yeah, maybe there's a bit of negative regression, but I mean, this is the thing, man, is he's the biggest story in the NHL right now. I know it's like hard to, I never know what the rest of the hockey world is thinking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I only know, like, I hear Toronto media and all that. I can tell you that Jason Robertson is the talk of every sports outlet everywhere.
He is really impressive.
Yeah.
This is coming from an eye test dude who did not draft him because I am a homer and I do not believe in the Dallas Stars over a season because I've been hurt. And I am so utterly impressed because every moment that I go, we really need a big goal right now. We
Yeah,
really need a spark plug to take this game over. It's Robo.
he's become that
Every
guy.
single time. He has become that guy. And I truly believe that as a Dallas Stars fan. And I truly believe it as someone who is watching the numbers day in and day out.
Yep. No, I'm totally with you, man. That being said, probably the hardest time that like probably you're probably gonna have to pay the most for him. Like his value is probably as high as it'll ever
I'm
be, and
I'm
maybe
kind
not.
of I'm kind of willing to pay through the nose right now and like
Okay.
deal with the fallout of that and streaming and etc. Like I don't know how many of our listeners are like me where they have held players that they like and have run out of roster spots. Like sell big and
Yeah.
stream.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I guess I'm just a very uh, conservative fantasy hockey player in terms of trades. So I would have a really difficult time uh, giving up max value, or maybe not max value. I mean he could get better and better. It's very possible. But I would have a hard time with that right now. But J Rob, he's for real, man. Let's do a zero G check in here. So we're gonna do this really quick. We'll do rapid fire. I Binksy's showing off his LA jersey
I got the
for that
quick on, buddy.
LA disaster, goaltending disaster right now. So I
Our
read an
notes
article.
say WTFLA.
Yeah,
And I agree, dude. What are they doing?
that's what my note says. So before we jump in, I write an article on the weekends. It comes out on Sundays typically, called Zero G to Victory. It highlights. I create top 10 power rankings for the week of guys or goalies that are sub 50% rostered in Yahoo that you could be picking up that could either be great spot starts for that week, or potentially guys that are in goaltending situations that could potentially be diamonds in the rough moving forward rest of season. So I talked a bit about the Montreal goaltending situation and how Montembeault has been performing considerably better than Allen, and how I thought that
Dropped
trust
them.
was maybe shifting towards Montembeault. Allen ended up getting the start the other night, allowed 3 goals on 23 shots against San Jose for his fifth straight sub 900 save
He's
percentage
really
game.
bad, dude. Drop
He's
City.
he's really struggling. So I would be pivoting away from Jake Allen right now. He's sub 908 of his last 11 games, so
It's
that's
really bad.
pretty brutal. Sam Montembeault, on the other hand, he's top 10 in the league in goal save above expected, according to moneypuck.com. He's also, I believe his save percentage, at least it was on the weekend, 924 on the season through, I believe, 8 games. So
And that's
he
got to be
is,
matchup based, but
yeah, but
still.
potentially, but that's considerably better than Jake Allen right now. So I almost wonder, and he did get a couple of starts in a row last week, after performing well in his first
Yeah,
game.
it's well deserved. Allen is terrible.
So I wonder they're on a road trip right now. I think they play Edmonton and Calgary this to finish out the week. So I wonder if Montembeault gets a couple of starts there, at least one. I imagine he'll get the next one. Yeah, I mean, I wrote what the fuck, LA. What is going on there? Last night was just an utter disaster. It seems like every time I stream Jonathan Quick, he gets just obliterated. Like I think in 2 Bangers Cats leagues right now, my save percentage is 643 because of Jonathan Quick. I and Cal Peterson also, that's the other factor. Cal Peterson came in after Quick allowed 5 goals, he allowed 4 goals. They lost 9-8 in overtime. Like, just ridiculous. So Cal Peterson went on waivers today. That's the big story. I don't know what that means going forward. I don't know if he'll clear. He does have a 3-year, $5 million contract that he just signed in the offseason, $5 million per season. So I'm not sure that he'll be picked up. He could clear waivers, and I don't know if they'll be sending him down, or if that's just, I don't know. We'll see. But there's a couple of guys in the minors that have played pretty well. have reasonable stats.
One of them named Phoenix Copley.
Phoenix Copley,
Who is this dude?
He played in the Washington system for a little while. So I don't know. I mean, they haven't called anyone up yet, so that's the other thing. So I would be watching carefully. Watch carefully around noon tomorrow Eastern, because that's typically when you find out who's cleared waivers. So that I would be watching closely to see if Peterson clears or if someone claims him.
It's a pretty hefty price tag for a backup goaltender.
Yeah, and then see what type of moves that LA makes. Like, I think they need a trade for a goalie. Like that's their. I mean, their goaltending situation is maybe as bad as anyone in the league right now. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
That's an interesting posit. Yeah,
but that is a situation to be watching very closely right now. Whether it's someone getting called up from the minors and getting an opportunity, or whether they make a move. And what happens to Peterson.
Before we move on, does this bolster you on Quick, even though he's not been playing well?
I mean, they've been leaning on Quick all year, really.
Yeah, but it's not been good. He's been falling down when they lean on him.
He has been inconsistent. But when he's bad, he's really bad. Like but he has had stretches where he's played pretty well. Like he had a 5-game stretch there.
Like Doughty has not been playing well. Darcy has been playing terribly defensively.
Yeah, Jersey's been rough defensively.
Like the only player that comes to mind for them that you actually are like, okay, defensively has been Roy, and that's not great news. Like,
no, not if he's your top guy. So
maybe if they have a good schedule. I don't know. That's rough.
Yeah, and they have had good schedules lately. Not as much this week, but the Grubauer and Martin Jones situation. So Martin Jones also was in that game, allowed 8 goals, and he's been struggling lately. I mean, they've been winning games still because Seattle is just scoring at a ridiculous rate, like I mentioned before. But I think Grubauer is probably going to get the next start, I would imagine. So I talked in an article recently when Grubauer came back healthy that he had a long road ahead of him in terms of regaining the starting position in Seattle, just because Martin Jones had played so well in his absence and had been leaned on so much. And ever since Grubauer's come back, Martin Jones is Martin Jones again. He's not been good. So that opens the door for Grubauer. I mean, I don't know that that's really a great situation to be streaming and holding, but you never know. I was high on Grubauer at the start of the year, and in the games he played, he wasn't good. But he's healthy now, so we'll see. He had one game. He had a start. I believe he had the last start, and he played pretty well. So we'll see moving forward with that. They need some stability in net there, but I mean, they're outscoring their problems right now. UPL and Craig Anderson. Buffalo has been on a heater again ever since I said don't touch anyone in Buffalo. Yeah. Ever since Eric Comrie went down with injury, they've been fantastic.
I like UPL though.
Also, yeah, no, exactly. UPL is a good prospect, a good future goalie for them. But yeah, both him and Anderson have been playing really well. They're just alternating evenly, so it's kind of hard to. You're not going to get a ton of volume from either of them. But this week they played 4 games, so if you streamed one of them at the start of the week, you'd be getting 2 starts from them. And Buffalo is playing really well. They're running hot, so. I don't know. Either of them could be an option going forward. Spencer Martin's another guy I talked about. Thatcher Demko has been horrific. And I was talking about it's similar to the Montembeault Allen situation, them moving towards Martin because Vancouver had been a little bit hot and Martin had been playing in some of those games that they won. He got shelled by Ovi and the Caps last night. So not a good start.
Ovi was on a road record chase though. That had to be coming, you know.
Big night for him. He's the all-time road goal scoring leader. He passed Wayne Gretzky, so that's pretty cool. But Spencer Martin, we'll see what happens there. I imagine he still probably gets another chance, but I mean, not a great showing for him. And then in terms of rest of the week streams, there's a couple guys that I think you should take a look at. They're on not good teams, but
Ugh.
John Gibson
Ugh.
has been really good lately. Surprisingly, he has been significantly better than at the start of the season and playing above expected with Anaheim being brutal defensively. He's going to get.
Maybe they swung a deal for Gibson in LA.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure that they have the cap space. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know what their cap situation is, but yeah, we'll find out. I don't know. You would think that
It's a short trip.
Yeah,
he doesn't even have to change houses.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So yeah, Gibson, rest of week, I think he'll get 2 more starts. And he's going to get you high volume of saves. So, and then Eunice Corpus Salo plays Friday and Sunday. So chances are, Tarasov got the last start, so I'm guessing Corpy is probably going to get those 2. So a couple of off nights, so you'll be able to fit him in pretty easy. So he's a decent option as well. Similar situation to Gibson, going to get a lot of shots on him. Probably won't win, but he's been pulling a few wins out here and there, surprisingly. So they're at least guys to look at. So that's it for. Or sorry,
I want to touch on this. Not so much 0G, kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. But for those of us that followed sage advice and went 0G, is there a slumping expected Vezina candidate that you're interested in buying low on? Right, Nate says he's never trading for a goalie.
Yeah,
I've heard you echo that same sentiment. Yep. But if you are thinking about trading for a goalie, if you've got like forwards and defense that you need to get rid of and you've got absolutely nothing at goalie, rank Igor, Saros, and Markstrom for me as a trade candidate.
Okay. So Igor is obviously the best option. But I think you would have to give up the most to get him. So maybe not a fantastic buy low option. Saros and Markstrom are pretty close for me. I think Calgary, I have more faith in Calgary going forward than I do Nashville. So in that way, I think I would probably go for Markstrom. But that, I don't feel confident about that. Again, like the whole basis around the articles that I write in the 0G strategy is that goalies are completely unpredictable. So like, I don't know, they could just be shit the rest of the year. And then you're wasting. That's why I won't trade for a goalie. Right?
I know you won't. That's why I made you positive. That's why I made you rank them.
Yeah, there you go.
So I just don't thinking it, dude. People are out there going,
no, I know.
Igor's not playing well. I can get a good deal for him. Markstrom's not playing well. I can get a good deal for him. I don't know as much about Saros. I think the cards are on the table for Nashville. But Calgary's defense is really good. Like when Vladar goes out there and plays well, it makes you kind of tilt your head a little bit. And New York we were talking about how hot they were in the first 10 games.
Yeah.
And the next 10 games were like, what is going on? Right. And he is literally in the pressers after the game going, the goalie stinks. And he's talking himself about himself in the 4th person. Like, I don't know, man. You know me, I love goalies. Like I'm mulling over trade options for these 3.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's go to the mailbag. So we got a few questions here. So from the Pork Man, with Letang out, who gets a crack at the Pens top unit? What do you think, Binksy?
So for those of you unaware, the Penguins announced that Letang had a stroke. It was diagnosed on Monday night after he alerted the team medical staff that he was having a migraine headache. He's always been very in tune with his body after having a stroke in 2014, right? Like he is very quick to alert the medical staff. So they diagnosed it as a stroke. He attended the game on Tuesday and spoke with the team afterwards in the locker room. that stroke that he had in 2014, he was out 2 months. So there's no notes on when he's expected to return thus far. But Ron Hextall has said this time is not as severe as 2014. I don't think any of us know what that means. And that while he's set to be tested over the next week, Chris himself has been quoted as wanting to know when he can skate next.
Of
So
course.
that, that's professional athlete talk. Like who knows when that actually is. There have been a few broadcasts over that time since the announcement, talking about him being 37, being on the backside of the mountain, and calling it a day and calling it a career and just enjoying his health as it is. He himself has been quoted about talking about coming back this year and how much he wants to win with these guys that he's been playing for 15 years. So I think that's a pro and a con in both categories about whether he'll continue in general. As far as the actual question goes, Russ got the work on power play 1 in that game on Tuesday against Carolina. With his slow start to the year, I mean, that could change, right? Given how good Zucker has been in general thus far. But there aren't a ton of options on the Penguins that I would expect to supplant him. It's definitely Letang's job to lose. It's a definite bonus to Russ staying power for all the people who are like, what do I do with Brian Rust right now? But I mean, are there other people that get a crack at the top unit, do you think?
My thought would be if they don't want to go 5 forward, which I'm always a supporter of, maybe maybe Jeff Petrie. He's a guy that's been a power play quarterback in the past, and has had a pretty good year for them this year. So I think he's a legitimate option there.
Yeah, he was on that power play with Rust in this
Yeah.
last game against Carolina. So
Yeah, so I think Jeff Petrie would probably be someone I would consider. That's a guy though that's not. He's rostered in most leagues, so
yeah,
not a guy that you're probably going to be able to stream. It's not like a guy that, not someone you're going to be able to acquire very very easily right now. But those Jeff Petrie guys that are rostering him are going to be pretty stoked, I think, because I think that's probably the way that they'll go. No guarantees, but yeah, that would be my best guess. Yeah,
I don't think as weird as it sounds, I don't think a lot of things are going to change in Pittsburgh with him being out. So it's unfortunate for him
No, I
health
don't think
wise.
so either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really sucks. It's such a scary thing, and I feel like, yeah, uh, him wanting to be back on the ice. It's crazy. Like, as someone that's been through a catastrophic health event, I understand the feeling of like wanting to just get back to normal because you feel fine, even though you probably need to rest and take it easy. We can talk about that a different time. But question from Nate: how do you identify defensemen to pick up who aren't on power play 1?
So I have a very
Um,
specific strategy here. I'm going to let you lead off on this one.
Okay, so there's a number of things that you can consider. For me, it's ice time is a big one. People that get a ton of ice time. Also, guys with high shot rates, and also, for me, in terms of streaming defensemen, or yeah, trying to figure out defenseman to pick up. If I'm streaming a defenseman, I'm probably going for peripherals. So guys that are racking up the banks, guys that are getting blocks, guys that are getting hits. I'm typically not trying to pick up defensemen in points heavy leagues, like where there's not a ton of peripherals, just because there's not people that aren't power play quarterbacks. But guys like, there's like Gustav Forsling, is a guy that doesn't play on the power play, but gets the points. That's the guy that's popping into my head right now. Jeff Petrie, I guess, is another guy who creates offense. um, 5-on-5, and then also gets peripherals. But yeah, I mean, and then also there's guys that are in situations where there's injuries to top level defensemen. So like we'll use Toronto as an example right now. Their top
Yeah.
three defensemen are out. Obviously Rasmus Sandin is on PP1, but Mark Giordano is
I like
being leaned
Gio way
on.
better in that duality. I've not been every league that I've looked for him, he was the one already rostered versus Sandin, so that was a bummer. But I like Gio way better in that option
And he's
than
been
the
leaned
power
on.
play quarterback. But they both seem like good options.
Yeah, he's been leaned on extremely heavily, 5-on-5, and on the penalty, just across the board. His ice time has gone up quite a bit. He's basically their number one guy right now,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been playing really well. So
Hitting up
situations
a
like that,
storm too.
hitting up a storm, blocking, and then chipping in some points here and there too. So that's the type of situation that I'm looking for as well. Guys that are being relied on due to injury. But yeah, I mean, I want to hear what your system is.
So you guys know this about me. I am the one person on the planet who cares about plus minus in fantasy hockey. Right?
Sure.
I think it's a
I don't think you're
quality
the only
stat.
one.
I think I'm the only one. I don't hear this from any of the people I listen to. I don't hear this in the chats. I don't see this in Discord. Like everyone thinks I'm insane for thinking that plus minus is a valuable fantasy hockey stat. But especially for, let's just call them second level defensemen, right? Because obviously the people that you want on defense are power play one quarterbacks who get a lot of ice time. That's just a given, right? But specifically to the question, the defensemen that I want are players that are getting a bunch of time on ice
Yep.
on good teams, right? Good things
Mhm.
happen to players that are on the ice on successful teams,
Yeah.
right? This is why I was harping on Braden McNabb 2 weeks ago. These are players that I like. These are players that have all of we talk about hockey being such an oddity stat wise, right? Like the most random things happen, but
Mhm.
mathematically, and especially in hockey, they happen to the good teams, right?
Yep.
The odd bounce stats, the lucky stats, the underlying stuff that isn't individual performance happens to good players on good teams that are on the ice a lot. So what
Yep.
I am hunting for is that, and then purely peripherally in talking about hits and blocks, I'm looking for the opposite end of the spectrum, right? I'm looking for huge amounts of time on ice for teams that are always on defense. The teams that
Yep.
do not have the
Mhm.
puck, those are the teams that you can hunt their biggest minute eaters who are always going to be on the ice doing good things defensively, which is hits and blocks. So depending on
Yep.
what you're looking for, I want players that do both. So I'm hunting players with good plus minus, right? But a bad plus minus, and man, I sound like I'm being converted to caring about players on bad teams, um, but on teams that take a ton of shots against that are always defensively working Corsi wise, like that is also an option.
Yeah. No, and I thought of a couple great examples in both scenarios. So you talked about guys that play tons of minutes on good teams that are going to essentially like luck into getting points.
Yeah, basically.
Brady Shea is a good example
Also
on the
good. Yeah.
Carolina Hurricanes. Plays a ton of minutes.
Very under
Does
the radar. Nice.
Yeah, and get some shots. He's a guy that I've been known to stream from time to time. If Carolina has a good schedule. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Luke Shen has been just a monster in terms of
A
peripherals this year.
mainstay. A
Like just
mainstay on my rosters this year.
crazy, man. Like he's become almost he's become a hold in a lot of leagues. especially Bangers Cats. Like he's a must have. He's like a Radko Gudas this year, but is even contributing a little bit more offensively. So I mean, part of that is luck too, definitely, but he's not really a big offensive guy. But yeah, so that's another situation. Vancouver is pretty brutal defensively, and is, or at least at the very least, inconsistent. So there's a lot of time where they don't have the puck, so Luke Schenk can throw his body around like he likes to do. So
I dig it.
So yeah, that's I totally support that strategy. And actually, that's kind of a more eloquent way of saying what I was trying to say. To be honest, like you just put it together a little bit nicer. Fantoma asks, is JG Pageau a second half of week pickup? Absolutely yes. He's been red hot. And I mean, like I said, New York has that nice coveted Friday, Sunday off night schedule. So absolutely, I would pick up JG Pageau if he's available in your leagues.
Honestly, Fantoma, before you put that in the Discord, it was a player that was on my short list for ads this week. I chose to go a little bit broader spectrum versus like the 2 to 3 game stretch towards the end of the week. But we talked about this over the stretch last year. JG Pageau is a very streaky player. When he's hot, he's a player that you want on your roster. If you are considering it, if he's available to you and it fits, that is a great pickup. I'm all behind it.
All right, and the last question here is from Zebra Dan, and Zebra Dan says, "Can I make it 3 weeks in a row that I ask about at Just Joshin's team in the 5-hole listener league, and he wins? Is Roman Polaksky a wagon? Tune in to find out." Now, this is another opportunity for me to talk about this 5-hole league. So thank you, Zebra Dan. Maybe Roman Polaksky is a wagon. So I talked to Nate last week. I don't know if you listened to the episode, Binksy, but I was saying my team, this is the most, you were talking about your buy low candidates team.
Yeah.
This was my buy low candidates team, but they're all fucking turning things around, baby. We got Pavel Buchnevich. We got Sam Reinhart. We got fucking Seth Jones is healthy again. We got John Carlson. I picked up Philip Hronek. He's been red hot. We got anyways.
Nice.
Anyways, there's been a lot of well, okay. I talked about the point setup in this league, about how it's basically just like goals, assists. You have like a little bit of peripherals, but they're almost not. They almost don't move the needle at all. It's almost a straight points league. Wins and shutouts are huge in this. Like wins are worth more than goals. So
I like that format. I'm a goalie fan.
With my 0G strategy, I didn't really account for that as well as I should have. So I had to completely change my goaltending setup. I now am running with Vitek Vanacek and Ilya Samsonov. And these are guys that I was able to pick up off waivers.
That's pretty good.
Vanacek I picked up earlier, and then I was running with Martin Jones. And I think someone dropped Samsonov when he was hurt, because I don't know if they ran out of IR plus spots, but he was on waivers. So I ended up getting him. And now that Martin Jones is shit and Samsonov is back healthy, he played tonight.
Martin Jones is Martin Jones again.
I dropped Martin Jones, and now I'm running with Samsonov and Vanacek, and I'm like, this is nice. This is great. So if I win this week, I am currently winning. It's a tight matchup. I will be up to 500 in this league after talking about it being like the worst I've ever done in fantasy hockey. It's turning around. Fingers crossed. Thank you for your support, Zebra Dan. I'm sure your tune will change when we play each other at some point, because we're both in this league together. But thank you for your continued support. Roman Polaksky for life. And by the way, all of the 5-hole leagues are Quentin Tarantino movie themed. So our tier is based on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it's it's centered around the whole Charles Manson mass murder of Sharon Tate and anyways, but the Roman Polanski was Sharon Tate's husband or boyfriend or whatever. And that
I think
it
I
was
was not the only one very confused by that.
the murder happened in his house. He is a character in this movie. And I was like, Roman Polanski, Roman Polaski. And it just makes sense, right? I don't think anyone understood that. So I just thought
No,
I needed to
not at all.
explain it. It's
I was really hoping you'd clear that up for me. I
it's
was like, is that a
definitely
player I'm not aware of?
it's definitely a dad pun, a really deep cut, and I just wanted to throw it out there because I thought it's been
Oh,
underappreciated.
good. Oh, good. I was like, man, I've really missed the boat. What team does Roman Polaski
So
play for?
that's my team name. And so we should maybe end on that because we're going off the rails.
Totally. Way off.
Oh man.
Roman Polaski off the rails
Oh
right now.
boy. Oh boy. That's all we got for today, everybody. Check out the Apples and Ginos Discord server. Shout outs to the band there for providing our music. Their Spotify link is in the episode description. Give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Binksy's at Binklemania. Nate is at Apples Ginos. Blake is at Blake Creamer SE. And I'm at Just Josh and 41. Don't forget to send us your Spotify Wrapped results. If we're in your top 5 or if we're your top podcast, I know there definitely are people where we are the top listened to podcast of 2022, which is just incredible to me. That's so cool. That's very, very cool. And much more than I expected, actually. So that's very cool. So yeah, send those to us. Send us those screenshots on Twitter and on Discord. Please practice safe stats and happy streaming. Have a good one, folks.
Good night, world.